Vegeta, the prince of all Saiyans, a warrior driven by pride, haunted by legacy, transformed by love, loss, and rivalry. But what was his true breaking point? It wasn't when he bowed to Frieza, nor when he let Babidi take over. This was deeper. This was personal. To understand Vegeta's breaking point, we first have to dispel the myth. The myth that Vegeta is only about pride. Yes, it drives him. It defines him. But pride is not his prison. It's his shield. Behind it, a boy ripped from his home planet. A prince raised as a weapon. A man trying to rewrite his destiny. We all saw that Vegeta was King Vegeta's pride and joy. And for a while, Vegeta was treated as a prince, having other Saiyans as his servants, and a whole planet at his disposal. But this was only a mirage. Planet Vegeta wasn't his. His Saiyan race wasn't his. They were all slaves to a warlord, Frieza, forced to do his dirty work. But eventually, Frieza became afraid of the Saiyan power. So he took Vegeta with a few other Saiyans and destroyed the Saiyan world, and told them that his planet was destroyed by asteroids. His pride was the only thing that kept him sane. After losing his home, forced to bow down to Frieza, and forced to do his bidding, Frieza treated him like a tool. Him and the other surviving Saiyans, condemned to serve Frieza for the rest of their lives. In fact, the first time we saw Vegeta and Nappa, they're on a planet that they took over. Vegeta was eating some creature, and they overheard Raditz talking with Piccolo about the Dragon Balls, and how they grant wishes. That right there sparked hope in Vegeta. Not for immortality, not for power, but for freedom. Freedom from Frieza, from a life of slavery. Wishing for immortality was just a step to get to the goal. Vegeta really thought that it was going to be easy to get the Dragon Balls and make the wish. At first it seemed that way. They arrived and faced the Sea Fighters, and the Sabermen alone took out Yamcha. Of course, Krillin took out most of the Sabermen, but still, Nappa was enough to dominate the fight against the rest of the Sea Fighters. In this part of the timeline, you could see how much of Frieza's cruelness had become part of Vegeta's personality. He could have taken all the Sea Fighters out in a minute, but instead, he did the same thing Frieza did in Namek. Nappa slowly tortured and took out the Sea Fighters, one by one, to get info on where the Dragon Balls were, while Vegeta watched. Of course, this was normal for Vegeta. He had seen it done by Frieza many times, so he knew that eventually he was going to get what he wanted. But out of nowhere, Goku steps in and puts everything upside down. Nappa is taken out before Vegeta's eyes, and we see again how cruel Vegeta at this point can be. He takes out Nappa like it was nothing. He even enjoys it, and puts his attention on Goku. He was still pretty confident. He read Goku's power level, and it was over 8,000, well, 9,000 in the anime. At this point, Vegeta's max power level was 18,000, so Goku having half was nothing. They find a wasteland to fight. Of course, Vegeta was extremely confident that he was gonna win. He is the prince of all Saiyans after all, and Goku's a low-level Saiyan, someone that should kneel at his feet, but doesn't. Not just that, but refuses his job offer. In a few seconds later, lands an earth-shattering punch. I suspect that this was the first time Vegeta was punched by another Saiyan, since both Nappa and Raditz were too weak to ever land a punch on Vegeta. This put Vegeta's whole world upside down. Goku using Kaioken, he doubled and tripled his power, and dominated the fight against Vegeta. Of course, this shattered Vegeta's pride. The way he looked at himself, of being the most powerful Saiyan, and became desperate, and used his Osaru form. He beat Goku with his Osaru form, but then he got yet again humiliated by Goku, Gohan, Krillin, and Yajirobe working together. 4 people that in any normal situation he would have easily gotten rid of. But this wasn't a normal situation. In the end, he was at the mercy of Goku and Krillin. Krillin wanted to end it with Yajirobe's sword, but Goku didn't let him. Maybe Goku saw something in Vegeta that only a Saiyan can understand. Or he wanted a rival that could push him even further. But this for Vegeta was devastating. A low-class Saiyan, his son, and 2 other humans were enough to defeat the Prince of all Saiyans. That changed how he saw his life. He needed to learn and evolve from this. He returned to one of Frieza's bases to heal himself from the battle on Earth. Once he was healed, he learned that Frieza overheard the conversation he had on Earth through a scouter about the Dragon Balls and immortality. He headed towards Namek. There were more Dragon Balls. Vegeta panics and leaves for Namek. He feels that this is the only chance of freedom that he has. And with Frieza in the picture, his wish is more difficult than ever. If he can make this wish, he will either die or be a slave forever. In the Frieza arc, we see Vegeta defy Frieza over and over and over. He risks it all. He even teamed up with the Z Fighters, the guys that shattered his Saiyan pride. Earth did change Vegeta. When Vegeta and Goku met again in Namek, Vegeta to a point respected Goku, especially after seeing the display of power that Goku exerted against the Ginyu Force. After the Ginyu Force was taken out, he took the Sea Fighters to the healing tanks so Goku would recover, and gave Krillin and Gohan some armor. Of course, you could argue that he did this because he needed help to fight against Frieza. But the old Vegeta would have taken the chance to get revenge, even if it meant him fighting Frieza alone. But the time came to face Vegeta's worst fear, Frieza. Even though Vegeta had faced life-threatening battles and improved a lot, he was still no match for Frieza. Goku finally recovers and joins the fight. And for the first time, Vegeta shows how he really feels. He begs Goku to defeat Frieza for their race, for him. In his last moments, he lets everything go and expresses what he truly feels. Much later, Vegeta was revived by the wish to revive all the victims of Frieza. He came back and saw what he always dreamed about, the Super Saiyan, right before his eyes. In a cruel twist, the one that achieved this transformation wasn't him, the prince, but the low-class warrior. When he was teleported to Earth, he was laughing like a crazy person, because he couldn't believe that what he always wanted was real, the Super Saiyan. Also, a Super Saiyan surpassing Frieza's power. He saw that immortality wasn't necessary to be free. He needed Super Saiyan, something that was achievable, and the answer to defeating Frieza. But a few moments later, Frieza was defeated by Goku. Vegeta was now free from Frieza's clutches, and once again, Goku changed how he saw his world. Now his main goal was Super Saiyan, and the only one that knew how to achieve it was Goku. So he went to search for him. He went to many planets occupied by Frieza's soldiers and took them out. He told them that the strongest being in the universe wasn't Frieza, It was a Saiyan named Goku. Vegeta, to a point, even sounded proud of Goku. He searched and searched but didn't find him. He wanted to know how he achieved Super Saiyan. This became his new goal, his new obsession. Surpassing Goku and regaining his pride was everything to Vegeta at this point. He destroyed his body in the gravity rooms and in space to achieve this, but nothing. Super Saiyan eluded him. It wasn't until his life was in danger in space that he came to a point where he didn't care about surpassing Goku. He didn't care about his pride. He didn't even care about anything. And he did it. He achieved Super Saiyan. The first time he used it was against the androids. He took out Android 19 with a Big Bang attack and scared away Dr. Gero. At this point, he felt invincible. He was more powerful than Goku since he got sick with a heart disease. But his Super Saiyan luck ran out when he met and challenged Android 18. She took out the legendary Super Saiyan in a minute. Once again, his pride was shattered. Even worse, his son from the future saw him fail, and Vegeta had to rebuild himself once more, and came up with an idea of ascending Super Saiyan, or Super Saiyan 2. That was his new goal. Goku manages to recover thanks to Trunks' future medicine, and shows him the hyperbolic time chamber, a room in the lookout where you can get a year's worth of training in a day. Vegeta and Trunks went first, with Vegeta intent on ascending Super Saiyan. A day later, Vegeta and Trunks came out, and for the first time, Vegeta had surpassed Goku in power. With his training, he had achieved a power much greater than Goku's, and he was proud of it. At this point, the androids were the only problem. There was an even greater threat: Cell. So he went to get rid of this so-called threat, and also show Goku and the Z-Fighters his new power. He confronted Cell, and he totally dominated the fight, with his new form called Super Vegeta. He was about to end it when Cell, having Vegeta's cells and knowing his weakness, told him that he could give him a much better fight if he could absorb Android 18 and achieve his perfect form. This intrigued Vegeta, and he allowed it. That was a big mistake. This new perfect cell turned out to be way too much for Vegeta to handle, and was defeated. Much later in the Cell games, Vegeta was in the sidelines after his defeat, because after Goku and Gohan came out of the hyperbolic time chamber, they were the strongest. This was a double hit to Vegeta's pride. Then Gohan turned Super Saiyan 2 for the first time. Once again, someone else reached his goal before the Prince of all Saiyans could. And a few minutes later, his greatest rival, Goku, sacrificed himself, trying to stop the destruction of Earth by teleporting Cell to Kenkai's planet. Now he had no rival. But nobody foresaw that Cell would regenerate from that blast, and came back and took out Trunks. And for the first time, Vegeta acted like a parent. He became enraged for what Cell had done, and attacked Cell without holding back. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough. After that, Gohan defeated Cell, and Vegeta felt lost. He wasn't the strongest, he had no rival, he was not a warrior anymore. Years later, Vegeta had a glimpse of hope when Goku came back for a day. When Babidi offered power, Vegeta accepted. Not because he wanted to serve evil, but because he thought he had no other choice. If he couldn't surpass Goku, he couldn't reclaim himself. This wasn't his breaking point, it was his scream for help, even if he had to take a few people with him. Fortunately, much later he saw his mistake, and tried to take Buu out with him. He said goodbye to his son, his wife, and in that moment he died not as a Saiyan warrior, but as a man seeking redemption. The real breaking point wasn't just once, it was multiple times. When his planet was destroyed, he had to evolve to survive. When he was defeated on Earth, he had to break again and rebuild himself, a Namek again, after seeing Goku turn into a Super Saiyan. And so on and so on. Vegeta is one of the characters that has changed the most in Dragon Ball, from a villain to an anti-hero to a hero. The breaking point wasn't a moment of weakness. It was the moment he let go of chasing Goku. He began to evolve, not into the strongest, but into someone worthy of strength. Vegeta's story hits hard because it's not just about fighting, it's about identity, about changing, not for others, but for yourself. He didn't break when he was beaten, he broke when he saw a better way and wasn't afraid to take it. More than pride, more than power, Vegeta's true breaking point was the moment he shattered the chains of his past, and in doing so, he became something even the Saiyan elite could never imagine. A man truly free.
Goodbye, my friend.
Thanks for watching, like and subscribe, and I'll see you later.